I'm gonna uh, test Josh. Well, it's not Josh. It's Cash Money Kev for all that are new into the room today. Um, Josh Hellman's dad. Um, we had an interesting space on Saturday where his significant other and pride of his life had her water break during the show, which was wonderful for those of us that like to snip interesting clips. But yeah, for you parents in the space, you know how special this, and you also know that that first week is talking and hoping that you don't kill anything, you know, because you don't know anything. Um, all the books, all the advice, everything gets thrown out the window because you alone are the one that are keeping that little one alive. And it's a series of no sleep because you know how important that mission is. So if you have the wherewithal, wish him, you know, some congratulations. He will eventually post pictures, but this is his sacred time. So we're waiting for him instead of spilling the beans. But I will tell you, I'm so proud of the man and his growing family. It's very wonderful to see. And as a person that has now adult children, 24, 22, and 20. Um, it's kind of weird to watch friends go full circle and have those new lives come into your life. So um, I don't know if Mateo will be here this evening or this hour morning. Holy smokes, Batman. It's been 12 hours since we closed out the last space. So um, I have had a lot of coffee, so I have zero excuse this morning. But Alisher, can you test your mic, friend? And then I'm going to test Cash Money Kev.
Yes, good morning, guys. We're back.
Excellent. Alisher, you sound really good too. The audio quality is very crisp, which is awesome. Cash Money Kev, how about you?
How's it going, guys? I hope everybody's doing awesome this morning. I did see Jeff posted a comment for Josh asking if he's getting any sleep. I'll tell you right now, barely any. I've been begging him, well, not begging him, but just telling him, hey, catch any hour or two extra you can, brother. But he's trucking. He's trucking right now. He's dealing with his business and the kid, and that's all he's got on his plate right now that he can handle. It's awesome. He's going full steam ahead into the dad mode. It just makes me super happy too, Sarah. And I can't wait for the pictures to drop for you guys because I know you guys are probably waiting on the edge of your seat for that. He's gonna get to it soon. Don't worry, they're incoming and they're super cute. Yeah, and guys, welcome to the week 4 recap. I'm just gonna do a quick little intro notes for anybody that wasn't here last night. We got through the Google authorization, adding that into our Canva app. And then we also did GitHub. And then we also started using AI to start to customize it, some parts of it ourselves, and integrate AI into our apps. So I'm super excited for everything that we're doing here. I'll just hand it right over to Alisher so he can dive right in. I'm super excited. How are you, Alisher? You feeling good? Great this morning?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I actually left out a little bit early last night so I can get a little bit more sleep and we can do this again. And really, all we did for the most part last night is we set up our Google login, we set up our GitHub login, and we also just played around with some of the features. So hopefully today we'll get straight to it. We'll be able to finish the setting up the Google login part pretty quickly, so we can spend the rest of the time on adjusting some of these features.
Just real quick, and we're going to mention this again at the end. We were given a homework assignment. So, you know, posting it ahead of time is actually a gift because now through the prism of today's class, you can kind of be marinating on what those 3 things are in terms of the applications. We want 3 use cases, and you're gonna we want 3 so that we can knock down 2, right? But you know, think about that in the back of your head as you go through today's space real quick, that the end game is figuring out 3 things that you want to see come out into the world using what we've built thus far. And if you put that on like a little sticky note or write it on your notes, or just jot it down. Last night I actually jotted it down on my hand, which is stupid, but I am a 50-year-old woman that still writes notes on her hand, and it is what it is. But those hand jot type scenarios are on the forefront, and I actually have to capture them quick because I'm also an OCD hand washer. So you have to make sure that you are, capturing that data as you can. But think of those three things, okay? And it is really important because everything that you're doing here is for naught if you don't put it to use. Right. If you're just going through the motions, checking boxes, and giving yourself a 1-800 justify for showing up, but you're not putting it into use, um, you're not honoring your time, and you're not honoring the time of the folks that are investing in transferring their skills to you. You got to put this stuff to use and make it a verb, because that's the only true way that you're going to void warranties, open the box, slide into home base, and own the material. So that's my advice. As take it or leave it. I'm not going to be offended one way or the other. I just want to encourage you. I'm really proud of the folks that showed up this morning and are giving it their all, because it's not easy. If it was, we'd have 1,000 people here. It's not easy. So, Alisher, without further much chit chat, let's get to work.
Yes. So, guys, I posted a few links that we're going to need today. We're going to need the Google Console link, the GitHub developer side, and Replicate. So I'm going to make sure those are in the bubble right now. And in the meantime, if you haven't signed up for Google Developer yet, make sure you go to the Google link and you sign up for Google Developer. You will need this in order to create that Google login. This is essentially an API key that allows you to use all sorts of Google infrastructure. Let's see.
Do you have the StreamYard too? I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah. The stream is up. It's also on the ITT website. And you can watch it on Twitter. You can watch it on the ITT website. What I usually do, and if you have an iPad, this is especially good, even though the X app sucks on iPad. I like to, while I'm in the space, is go in the pill, like go in all the replies, and you can have the live stream muted while you're in the replies and watch it, and you can be in the space at the same time on one screen. So that's what I usually do.
And that's super, super helpful for those of you that are also like neurodivergent or just really struggle with having the delay. Come up and be a speaker. You don't have to speak. You can just sit there, but you'll get the information in real time, so that while you're watching the screen, it's in real time. There's not that delay. You're openly invited, just as long as you are actually a student here, right? If you're going to come up to be a speaker, just to interfere with the class, that's no bueno. Karma is going to be swift with you. So go ahead, Alisher.
Yeah, and I highly recommend you guys sign up for Google Console and claim those $300 of credit. I think if you put in your credit card or something like that, it pretty much gives you, free cash that you can spend on Google infrastructure products. And I've used this a lot. This is like my 10th email that I sign up with to just experiment, right? Because you can use this to launch like an AI. You can use this to launch Claude, actually. They host Claude. Or you can use it to launch a VM. If you guys remember season 2, season 3, we did WordPress. You can use this to launch your own WordPress. And for 2 months, as you can see here, mine expires on December 20th. You don't have to pay. You can use this to launch or fine tune like an LLM model, just like Sharon said last night. And those $300, they'll get you a few days of runtime and training. And maybe you want to use this mostly for APIs. A good thing that Google has is this API that detects NSFW images and blurs them. So if you have an app where you want to make sure nobody uploads bad pictures, naughty pictures, great use. For example, we had a social network app. And of course, the social network app, it's the children use it to interact with each other, to interact with the content. And we wanted to somehow protect that from all the naughty images that people would upload. And so we were able to use their APIs to do that. They have an NSFW API that's great. It's probably like the best NSFW detector you can get. But pretty much as soon as you sign up, you'll be taken to this project. It'll be called My First Project. This is a fresh account I have that I signed up for like a week ago. And from here, you can rename this project. Highly recommend renaming it. You can keep it as is if you only have one project. Now, what we're interested in is APIs and services. We want the API that's responsible for social login. So I'm going to go to enabled APIs and services. Now, it looks like I already have a bunch of APIs here enabled. So we'll keep this as is. If you guys want to check this out, you can click this plus enable APIs and services button, and you're going to see all of these APIs that Google makes available to you. Speech to text, translation, AI platform, Gmail, calendar. If you guys remember season 1, we have one of our students, Douglas. He actually went ahead and he created his own SaaS, and he took the Google Calendar API and he added AI to it. So you had AI being able to schedule meetings for you, change meetings for you. So it was extremely useful. And they have all sorts of, here's Google Plus API, which enables some of the social login function. We'll see if we need any of these once we get our API key and get the OAuth screen. But you can use a lot of these. For example, page speed and Google Analytics. If you guys use Google Analytics to capture data on your website, you might be interested in some of these. They have some new ones too, like advertising APIs. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's get our API. So first, we need to set up an OAuth consent screen. So if you guys remember, whenever you sign in with Google, it first takes you to that Google sign-in screen where you have to say like authorize or something like that. That's the OAuth screen. Pretty much any social login, like Google, GitHub, Discord, all of these login with blank services, they all have an OAuth screen that you have to set up and put in some sort of information about your app. Now, as soon as you go to create it, so I haven't created one yet, that's why it started me at step 1. So my step 1 is external. I want the users to be external. If you select internal, then nobody besides the people whose email you add to the list will be able to sign in. So you'll see if I click internal here. Can't seem to click it anymore. Because you're not in Google, you can only make your apps available to external. Oh, so actually, if you don't even have a G Suite, if you're not their enterprise user, you can't even use internal. I know that's a question that everybody was asking. Should I choose internal or external? Well, if you have a regular Gmail like me, this is a regular @Gmail account, I can't even use internal. So I have to be part of an organization. Now let's show this off. Some basic information. App name. This is, I'll call this Alex for Canva. Why not? You can call it something unique. Support email. I'm just going to select my email. If you guys don't use this email often, you can select a different one. App logo. This is purely like an image for your app. So let's see what we got. I have all sorts of images on this computer. I'll put a little add to the square. Now, app domain. So this is what's important here. Domain is pretty much your URL just without HTTPS and forward slashes. So domain is just like the main part of your URL. For me, it's imageaimaster.vercel.app. And somebody last night said that they couldn't use a Vercel domain. You can definitely use a Vercel domain. Oh, so domain actually has to be HTTPS.
Alisher, you did skip out a minute. Dan has his hand up. I just don't want you to continue paced past him. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan. Ask your question just in case.
Yeah, just super quick point of clarification for the internal external. Let's say you want to develop something for Google Classroom, which is it would be an internal organization based app. is that something that we could develop with the external and then kind of sell it internally, or would that be something that maybe we would have to be part of, have the Google Suite and then develop it within the Google Classroom environment? And I'm just curious about it. It's like an I wonder question because it could be a huge market question.
Really, internal or external just it refers to the type of users that are able to log into your app. So if you're saying that the users that are able to log in are internal, I'll show you. Then, for example, if we were to say that only users that are part of mytsi.org Gmail are able to log in, then that would be internal. But everybody else is external. So if let's say you're developing an app just for your organization, then it could be internal. Now, if you with education, it's a little bit iffy, right? Because, for example, in my experience, whenever I went into the classroom, they actually had two different sets of enterprise tools. So the teachers had an Outlook email that was at school name, right? And then the students had a Gmail, a G Suite account that was at nycstudents.gov or something like that. So in that case, if you wanted both students and teachers to log in, since they don't share the same domain, they don't share the same Google account, Google G Suite domain, they wouldn't be able to use it together. So it would have to be external, where everybody would be able to log in.
Gotcha. That makes so much sense. And I'm so glad I asked the question because that has my mind going in a different direction.
Yeah, you wanna say external just because you could always change it. By the way, so let's say all of a sudden, um, you get a G Suite and whatnot. Just make a new project, make a new API key, and make it internal if you're in a G Suite. But for me, it didn't even allow me to click internal in this situation because I don't have a corporate account linked to this Gmail. But it's a good question, and I have actually accidentally clicked internal before. When they first introduced this option, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was building something, and I was unfamiliar with the option. I clicked internal, and only I was able to log in at first. And even then, I had to allow, for example, Ross, who is still using a TSI email, to log in. So for testing purposes, it's actually really good because then people who aren't allowed won't be able to log in. But for being public purposes and other people logging in, it's not great because then you have to add every single email in manually. Okay, cool. Once you set up your OAuth screen, whenever you get to scopes, test users, you can just skip through all that. You don't need to add any scopes or test users for now. Scopes is good because scopes allows you to restrict certain elements. But for us, we don't have an app that does a lot of things. We just have an app that signs us in with Google. So whenever we go through scopes, we're not really too worried about it. For example, there's things like rate limits, right? Let's say that this is something that Google charges money for. How many requests do you want them to be able to process a day? Well, at that point, you'll set your budget for a day and you would lower the amount of times that it can be processed depending on your budget. But signing in, it's a free API. They actually have very few paid APIs, and when it is paid, it's pretty cheap. The biggest thing you pay for on Google Cloud is the virtual machines and the servers. Okay, so we have our OAuth consent screen. Whenever you make a project, you'll always have to set this up if you want to log in. Now let's go to credentials. Credentials is where we get our API. And here I can click create credentials, and I want OAuth client ID. It's essentially another way for us to access the features of this API specifically for signing in. Whenever somebody says OAuth, it most likely refers to the process of signing in. So our application type, it's a web app. Remember that. Name of the app, I'll call this Ultra Canva. This name is actually going to appear whenever I think you're signing in. Now, authorized JavaScript origins and authorized redirect URLs. So this is pretty much a URL to your app. So I'm going to go to my app, copy this URL, and you can just paste it in. And whenever you get an error, just make sure you read the error carefully. I think one thing I noticed is when people were sharing, they were getting errors, but I don't know if they weren't really reading them or understanding them. But whenever you read it, it's going to tell you what's wrong with the URL, right? It's going to say it contains a forward slash at the end. Well, can't have it. So just, we could delete it. I think
Alistair,
some people were getting an issue as well. What's up?
I don't want to interrupt. Can you guys in the audience, listening audience, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if the screen that you're looking at is a fuzzy mess that's very small? The visual is, so yeah. Is there any way to make the screen easier to read from your end? Alisher, it's very difficult for some folks on the computer. It's really, really small. They're having a hard time following you.
Yeah, I
Um,
can zoom in. I'm just checking the quality right now.
on my side, it
Um,
is not fuzzy, so maybe just give it a refresh if it is for you guys, and it should fix it.
yep, and I'm also gonna zoom in a little bit.
Thank you. For me, zoom in because I'll tell you what. For those of us that were up all late last night, the teeny tiny screen is harsh. But thank you, Alisher, for checking that for me.
Yeah, guys, if you ever can't see, make sure you tell me right away. I'll zoom in. I'll check if there's maybe there's something up with the live stream. You know, sometimes StreamYard just there's something up with the connection or their servers. It like just disconnects.
I know for me, I do have to constantly refresh because I'm moving from tab to tab, and then it'll freeze, or I'm sometimes even looking at the screen thinking that's my work that I'm actually working on. So it happens, folks, but definitely give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, or immediately post in purple bubble down below if you're struggling with seeing something or need to see something again, okay? Because we don't want to leave anyone behind. There you go. Go ahead, Alisher.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll go back to that screen if you guys missed something, and I'll make sure I'll stay there for a few minutes, so you're able to either capture it, because sometimes also staying on one screen for a little bit of time makes it a little bit clearer. I noticed on live streams. Okay, so our URL's over here. Well, let's see what this means. This pretty much means authorized JavaScript origins. This is where the websites you're able to sign in from, and this is where it's gonna redirect you after you sign in. So as of right now, even though of course I know what this is supposed to end in from yesterday, but if you didn't know what your redirect URL is supposed to be, well, it'll actually give you an error whenever you try to sign in. So for now, let's click create. Make sure again, this is just like the full link to your app. Make sure you don't have anything after app, no forward slashes for now. And here you go. It's gonna give you your client ID and client secret. Now, what's cool about Apple, we talk about APIs and having to save these keys. You don't have to save these keys. Over the years, Apple has adapted to showing you the keys. And now these keys are gonna go into your environment variables in Vercel and your env file locally if you're developing more locally. So let's check this out. I'm going to copy this client ID and I'm going to go to Vercel and look for it. So here's my project in Vercel. I'm going to go to settings, environment variables. So all the variables for Stripe. And here you go. The two last variables is Google. So we have Google auth Google ID. So we're going to match that to client ID. And then we have auth Google secret, and that should match to client secret. And now that we have our variables in, and we want to test this out and get that error to get the exact redirect URL, We just need to redeploy. And what I noticed is some of you redeploy faster than me. So I think a lot of you guys have an app that builds in less than a minute. For me, it takes a little bit longer for some reason. So I'm gonna let it build. In the meantime, let's check this out. I'm gonna click OK, and you see right here it says OAuth 2.0 client IDs and the created one called Alsher Canva, just like we named it. And right here on the right side, where it says additional information, you get your client ID again, and you get your client secret again. So if you ever lose it, you're able to get back in here and find these keys once again. Or if you ever want to reuse these, because what you can do is you can use this for 10, 20, 30 different apps. You don't have to use it just for this one app and then create a whole new project. You can use it for, multiple apps, all your apps. For us, for example, AI Tutor, Pixio, AI Tutor and Pixio, they use separate ones, but all of our other apps, whenever you sign up with Google, they actually all use one project just because it makes it easier. Because at the end of the day, you're really just filling out this info to let Google know that you are a legit developer. You're making an app. Here's the info for your app. Can I please use Google Sign-In? So the amount of apps you have in here doesn't really matter. I think maybe they max out at like 15. I don't remember exactly, 15, 20. It's like my redeployment is almost done. Now, just like we had the webhook secret and setting up the webhook for Stripe, for this authorized redirect URL, we're going to have a special link from our app that corresponds to a script within our app. So let's check this out. It's redeployed, it's current, perfect. Remember, when you're going to your app, make sure you go to the main domain, the one that has a little globe next to it. Now I'm going to sign out and I'm going to try to log in with Google. So continue with Google. Okay, access blocked. It says redirect URI mismatch. And when we click on error details, you're going to get the exact URL that you need. So let's check this out. Here we have, it says request details. Here's the redirect URI that it wants. It's your domain / API auth callback Google. So that's where it wants to go. And that's where it sees in Google Console that it's not going. So let's fix that. We're going to go back to Google. And then this authorized redirect URI, you just got to match up the errors a little bit. We can replace with the one that the error gives us. Now, it does say it might take up to 5 minutes, but usually it's pretty instant. So if I go back and try to log in again, there you go. I'm immediately taken here to my Google login. And there you go. It actually, no, it did not sign me into a previous account, I don't think. Cool, but your Google login should be now working. This is the first thing we did last night. So before I move on, do you guys have any questions about Google login? And you don't need to claim that $300 on Google. I just recommend it because it's extremely useful. You can do a lot of things with it. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Canvas, the learning infrastructure. You can launch it on Google Cloud Platform for free for a few months. You can launch WordPress. You can launch all sorts of different apps there for free. So that $300 is actually pretty useful. I remember when I would just go and claim those $300 to train a deepfake model. So extremely fun to play with. Any questions, guys, before we move on from Google and go to GitHub? Okay. I'm not seeing any hands. Sarah, are you seeing any hands?
That's a negative, sir. I
Awesome.
am looking around. I'm also thinking in the background. No, I'm not seeing any hands. But if you do have questions that kind of pop up, because sometimes we continue on and then for some reason we have the delayed satisfaction of what you just said, actually hitting the target. And then you're thinking, wait a second, did I just hear what he said? If that happens, definitely put it in the purple bubble and we'll keep an eye on for it. But go ahead, Alisher. For those that are listening in too, I want to make sure that folks understand, and in the recording, this is a down and dirty. So we move fast, and the goal is an hour, hour and a half at the most. So it is going to move fast. And if you do have questions after the fact, we always have the Slack channel too. So go ahead, Alisher.
Yeah, guys, we have the Slack channel. Feel free to DM me. Throughout the week, I talked to a few people and catch
Oh,
them up as
and
well.
Cyril also added a very important little tidbit to the Slack channel last night. So I apologize for interrupting, Alisher. That is something that for those of you that were not here last night, you definitely want to poke around in that channel, because for those of you that are on a Mac especially, life can get ugly and miserable for you because it does not like to play nice in the sandbox. So Cyril, one of your teammates and your Pocket family, MacGyvered some really cool things for you specifically. So make sure you poke around there. I think Alisher will hit on it too, but still, it's one of those things that we want to make sure that you are paying attention. All right. Go ahead, Alisher.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and we are missing these two environment variables. So if you guys go to the Slack channel, it's called Idea to Impact Deploy an App. You will notice that there's four keys that Ross, well, actually 6 keys that are in here that you'll need. So the first one, of course, is GitHub client ID and GitHub client secret that Cyril added, which is awesome. He also has a file here for auth config to fix it as well. Let's see. I want to see the whole file. There you go. And let's grab these variables. Well, actually, we'll grab them in a sec. First, we need to make the GitHub login. And also, one thing Cyril added as well is he fixed the logout issue. So we can fix that issue as well. And if you guys add anything and you're feeling like you want to share with the rest of the group, please feel free to drop it in this channel. I love that you guys are going back and forth, sharing some code. That's how it should be. Because at the end of the day, we are all working on the same app. Now, another thing, if somebody integrates FAL instead of replicate, because some of us have FAL credits from season 1. So if anybody is interested, you could try to integrate a FAL system instead of replicate. Okay, now for setting up GitHub, you want to go to github.com/settings/developers. I put the link with the rest of the links. That should take you directly to this page where you can create your OAuth. Again, remember, OAuth just really means login. So let's do a new OAuth app. And similarly, I'm going to name it the same thing, Alisher Canva. Homepage URL, I'm just going to use the URL of my app. Description, even though it's optional, I'm going to put something here. This is a test app for ITT Thursdays. Now, authorized callback URL, we don't really know it yet. So we're just going to put home page URL again. And then when we get an error, we'll fix it. Then enable device flow. We'll skip device flow for now. Seems like something new they've added. Okay, so from here you can register application. And different services have different names for these things. Google calls them projects. GitHub calls them applications. You'll go to something like Spotify, they'll call them applications. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. You're just creating some sort of a paper trail for them to see that, hey, this is a real authorized app that people are logging into, and for them to do some sort of due diligence and make sure you're not like a crazy illegal app, because otherwise they'll definitely revoke all your rights. Okay, awesome. Here we have our client ID, client secrets. Easy. Now let's fill these in. So Cyril provided us with our environment variables. Here they are. If you guys are in the Slack channel, you want, oh, have a lot of code. You want this GitHub client ID. And we're going to match that to client ID found in the GitHub dashboard once you create this app. Then we're going to add another. We're going to add the secret. So GitHub client secret. And once again, we're going to match that to client secrets here. And we actually have to generate a new secret because we don't have one. Okay, now this one, I think you want to make sure you copy this one because I'm pretty sure this will go away. So if I refresh, yeah, you can't see it anymore. So this is the key you want to copy, but you could also generate a new one pretty easily and replace it. Perfect. So from here we can save. That should add the variables. And once again, remember, whenever we add variables and we want to test it, we need to redeploy in order for those variables to take effect. So I'm going to go click redeploy. This will be like 90% working. We need one more step to get it working. But in the meantime, while it's redeploying for me, do you guys have any questions about adding GitHub? We're going to try this out. And we're also going to see if we need this auth file that Cyril provides us with. So it looks like he has GitHub here. He has Google here. Let's see if we have it as well in our code. Here I have our code. Let's look for auth file. Remember, whenever you're in VS Code, you can look for things at the top where it says your project name. So I'm going to look for auth. Here it is, authconfig.ts. So this looks pretty simple. Doesn't look like it has GitHub. Uh, But it does look like there is GitHub sign in here already. So we'll see if we can sign in, and if we can't, we'll add those configurations. Let's see if it's redeployed. Almost. Okay, cool. Let's check out our domain. I'm gonna log out. I'm gonna try to log in with GitHub. Okay, so I click on it, and of course I'm gonna get an error. But if we take a look at the link, it actually gives us a URL in here. So I think all we really have to do is use the same URL as we were given with Google and just change it to GitHub. So it looks like it goes to API, auth, callback, GitHub instead of Google. So simple. I'm going to take the same one. And this is typically how most of the apps are structured. So this uses NextAuth. If you guys remember, we had to generate that long key And whenever it uses nextauth, all the apps are going to say have pretty much the same structure because they all use the same package. This is what's cool about Node is when you have apps that use similar packages or same packages, it gets a lot easier to develop with those apps. So maybe in your next app, you want to use nextauth. Now, let's see if that fixes our error. Oops, wrong one. Of course, I have it. Okay, we might need to redeploy this. Just in case. Copy this last part. All right, let's redeploy it again and see if it works. In the meantime, I'll keep this open in case you guys need these settings for anything. This is pretty much how our app should be set up. Now, while it's redeploying, let's see what else you guys added. I'll put this to the side so you guys can still see it. Looks like you guys added Open Router, so that's interesting. You can do Open Router. Open Router is great because it has a few models that are free. You can also do Grok. Grok with the Q. It's very fast and very easy to integrate as well. Now, what did you guys end up using last time? You ended up using Flux, looks like. Well, you don't just have to use Flux, or you don't just have to use Flux Dev. You know, Flux Dev is a little bit on the expensive side. You can use Schnell, which is much faster and much cheaper. You could also try to use Flux 1.1, which is the newest model. Yeah, as you can see, Schnell, almost 80 million runs. Crazy. And if you want to stick with Replicate, Replicate has LLM models as well. So if you guys check out where it says use a language model, they have the latest meta models, they have the latest mixtural models. Pretty much whatever you can find on GitHub, that's a model you could probably find here as well. Like that's not just a model, but like a well-known model, like a reputable model. Let's see how our deployment is going. Okay, looks like it redeployed. Let's try again. Huh. Let me try incognito. Was it image? JI something. There you go. I think it's just because I am the owner of the app, and I'm also using the same email with GitHub and everything. It's just having an issue. Now I don't have another GitHub account, unfortunately, to log into easily right now. Or do I? Yeah, I don't. I don't think so. Let's let's try it here. I'm logged into Ross's GitHub here. Ross is gonna be involuntarily my first GitHub user. Okay. So when I click sign in, it still has that same error. Now, from last night, does anybody remember how you fixed that error? Because it looks like it's going to the right place. It's going to API auth callback GitHub. Now, if we're still going to have the same error, we'll try Cyril's code. And then we'll leave GitHub alone for a second. Let's see. Ross is saying try deleting the user, then try again. I could try that, but I don't think you were a user. So let's check out Neon. We have this inside of Neon. Let's do Google login. So strange. Where is it? Where's the database? Tables. There you go. Users. I do have myself as a user, so let's delete myself. Delete all of them. And let's try again. Yeah, still the same error. I'll try this code snippet that Cyril provided us with as well. Oh, it could be something. It says the page you're looking for is not found. So it could be something with making the app in here. I could. I'm also gonna check. I'll check your Vercel and I'll check your GitHub too. See what your redirect URL is, Ross. Let's see. No, we have the same redirect URL. Yeah, I made OAuth. Google does work. Okay. Let's give this another try. Does not want to log in. I could redeploy again. Why not?
Alistair, if you go back to the GitHub authorization callback URL, and then you take your website's like login page URL, and if you copy paste that in there, that callback URL worked for me instead of the auth/callback/GitHub. I'll send you I'll send you a screenshot real quick to show
Okay.
what I'm talking about, because I just copied that in there and it worked.
We'll see. Because I think GitHub worked for you guys yesterday, and this is the app from yesterday. Let's see what we have in Vercel from yesterday as well. Okay, so it's auth GitHub secret, auth GitHub ID. I think that's maybe where it's failing. I think it's the variable names. Let's check them out. Yeah. So guys, just watch out. I'm gonna put these in. I'm gonna put this in Slack as well as a reply to, or I'll just add it on to where Ross had it. It's just the name of the variable that's the problem. Looks like. Okay, I'm pretty sure I just messed them up. Yeah, this is the secret. Oh, that's Google. There you go. Oh, GitHub secret, and then auth GitHub ID. Makes sense because this uses next auth. These start with auth. Okay, let's redeploy. That should work. Yeah, that callback URL probably works because you have your variables right, and I didn't have my variables right. And I am going to post these two variables for you guys in Slack as well. So for GitHub login, use these variables. And there's one. And let's see if that fixes our issue. I think that should fix it. I think it was just the naming of the variables. Now, did you guys actually integrate OpenRouter into your app last night?
I think Sharon did last night, and a couple other people. I personally did not. Alisher.
Okay. Yeah, and I
Bravo.
think Ross also shared the code with you if you did want to integrate it. Right, Ross? Is that what the code in Slack is? It has OpenRouter?
For you Gen Xers, it's Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. Exactly. You all get it. You understand.
Yes. Ross is saying that code that's in Slack
There you
has
go.
full OpenRouter integration. Nice. So we'll add that in too. That's a good addition. Okay, so let's check it. Let's check this out. Hopefully, now it's working. Hey, there you go. Okay, so what ends up happening is, I think what ends up happening is that Cyril, he has a modified auth config file. So if you were to use that file, then use the variables that Cyril provides you with in his post. If you just want to use the regular already configured login, then you need to use the variables that I'm going to send right now. So then you need to use these variables that start with auth. Okay, perfect. We have our GitHub login. We have our Google login. Do you guys have any questions before I show you around, show you a few more things from last night? And then we'll integrate OpenRouter as well. Let's see, any questions about Google login or GitHub login?
I'm not seeing any Alisher.
Awesome.
I think people are on the right page. I think that they're plugging along and doing well. I'm not seeing any questions.
That is awesome. Okay, so now guys, you want to make sure you have your code in Visual Studio Code, and you want to make sure you have GitHub Desktop open, right? Because to integrate any sort of code changes, we're going to need to start pushing them from our local to the cloud server cell to really see it live. And the first code change we're going to start with is actually editing the model, right? So last night we took a look at what replicate does. Well, replicate does a few things. So let's see. If we look up replicate, here we have our AI portion, and it has remove background, and it also has image generation. So if we take a look, remove background is one of them. And then here's generate image. And generate image uses Stable Diffusion 3. Now, what do you guys prefer more? Stable Diffusion 3 or Flux? Well, we can actually test it out and take a look. Let's see. Here's my app. I'm going to start creating. And I'm going to go to the AI portion, and we're going to compare it, right? So let's do a poster that says ITT Thursday. Thursday being held by a man in a business suit. Let's see how well stable. Okay, I have to upgrade my account, of course. Let's fake buy. Remember, if you guys are testing this, you can use 424242 to fake buy, as we say. And then you'll have your premium account. Let's do it. Man in a business suit holding sign, not signs, ITT. Now, this is Stable Diffusion 3. As you can see, it's taking a little bit of time. There you go. That's actually pretty almost there. It's pretty well generated, but his arm is ginormous. And I guess some of the things you could also expose here is the negative prompt. His arm is giant. He doesn't look too bad, but it's kind of missing some of the text. Let's see if we can get it to generate it with the text that we want, and then we'll compare it to Flux. Now, remember, whenever you generate these, that's a little bit better. Whenever you generate these cost money. These cost real money. It's cents, so you're able to get away with it. But at the end of the day, these are costing you real money. Okay, this is our first picture. We'll put this on top. This is Stable Diffusion 3 picture. Now, let's change that to Flux. Right, so in order to change to Flux, what you need to do is you need to first go to Replicate. Let's see which Flux we want to use. Where do we have Replicate? So first, I'm going to go and check out. In Replicate, you get this big dashboard. And here you can pretty much see every generation for, I think, about an hour. So you have like an hour grace period where you're able to see and analyze some of the things that are here. So number one is it says this generated in 3.6 seconds. That's pretty good. It said it was queued for a little bit as well, but overall took 4 seconds. And here's our output. Right, we got this guy, ITT Thursday. Let's see how much that cost us. So they say this costs about 3.5 cents per image. Not bad. Now let's check out Schnell. Schnell is pretty good. You know, it looks decent. It has pretty much all of the same inputs, but it's faster. It's about 3 times faster actually, and it's also much cheaper. You're paying about 1/3 of a cent per image. So let's use this model instead because it's cheaper, it's faster, and looks like it has a bit of a more consistent text output. Now, Schnell, if you guys know, this is like the fast Flux. It's fast, but the quality that it gives you is pretty good. And the price is extremely cheap. You can generate 1,000 images and it'll cost you $1 versus generating, or it'll cost you like $3 versus generating 100 images. That'll cost you $3 with Stable Diffusion. Now, where we edit this is this file called AITS. So if you are in Visual Studio Code, you have a few ways of getting there. You can search for this file. You can just go into your search and type AI, or you can look for replicate inside of the word search. So I use this Control-Shift-F, the word search on the side menu. And when I look for replicate, this is one of the first files that pops in. And here, if we go to line 55, we have Stability AI Stable Diffusion 3. So we'll change that with Flux Schnell. Now, using it this way, make sure that you're using the latest model, because models on Replicate update every so often. Flux updates a lot, actually. It's a very popular model. It's like it's the official corporate enterprise model. It's not like if you look at this model where this is actually using a specific version of something. It's actually very well kept, not like this remove background. Okay, so now let's save this. Let's also edit this remove background. Right, remove background uses replicate as well. So let's see how long that takes to run. So I'm going to go to my app, and I'm going to try to remove the background for this picture. There you go. And there it is. That's actually pretty good, but as you can see, there's a little bit of a glow around it. So it's a decent remove background, but maybe you don't like this one. Well, there's actually other ones in Replicate. This one's pretty fast. The best one is in File. So if you want to integrate File, you could. They have probably the best one that will give you a true PNG. Let's check this out. Again, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to see how long this took. So this remove background took 8 seconds, and I'm going to see how much it cost. Right? This is the important part, is you want to figure out how much these things cost so you don't get overcharged. And looks like this is very cheap. This costs about half a cent. Not bad. But I think if we go to Explore and we look for a model, we can find a better one that does a better job. So I'm going to look for Remove, and let's see what we get. Remove BG by Luca Taco has the most runs. It has 3 million runs, meaning that people are constantly running it and people are, I guess, somewhat satisfied with it. So now all I have to do is just change it and make it exactly as it is. So let's check this out. You can go to API. This will give you documentation on how to integrate. And all I have to do is just match up the code. So here is the line of code that it wants me to copy and replace. I remember somebody last night complained about the remove background not being that good. Okay, there you go. Now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to push this to Vercel in order to test it. So I'm not going to test it locally because I don't have any of the social sign-in set up locally, but I have it set up online. So it's very easy for me to just go to GitHub Desktop. GitHub Desktop is going to tell me which file has been updated, which lines have been updated. This is very important, very useful. So if, let's say, you made a change, you accidentally made a change somewhere that you didn't want to make, this will tell you. And I'm just going to commit. I'm going to say updated replicate models. So you're letting yourself or future developers know what you've done. And then I'm going to push origin. And the push origin part is what actually sends it to your GitHub. to your online GitHub servers. And so now, remember, whenever we make a change in code, that's going to trigger a redeployment in Vercel. So if I go back to my Vercel, it should already be redeploying. And there you go. So now we changed the remove background, and we changed the photo model that we're going to be using, the image model, and we'll go in and we'll compare. Right, so here we have our one image. This image is from Stable Diffusion 3. It looks okay, but you have a feeling that it's AI generated because of that sign and him not really being able to spell out Thursday properly. And we have this remove background, and it's a little bit, it has certain imperfections with this bit of a glow that it leaves. You can see very clearly whenever you try to put it inside of some sort of an image, just looks out of place. Now we're going to use our new ones. We're going to use Schnell. There you go. It says new deployment available. We'll refresh in a second. And we're going to use the exact same prompt to test it. So let's refresh. Hopefully that stays there and it's saved. Yep. Now let's go to AI and let's generate it again. This time it should be going to Flex. So let's click generate. So immediately it's much faster. It looks a little bit, off. It's missing the whole ITT part. That's okay. But it was, I would say, light years faster in comparison. Pretty much as soon as I clicked the button, it was done. And now let's see how it removes the background here as well. So I'm going to use the same button, remove background. And we'll see how it does overall. And here's our remove background, and it does actually do much better. It doesn't have that insane glow, and it's not leaving a lot of the background in like the other one did. So those are the things you guys can play around with by changing minimal code, right? There's not a lot of code being changed, maybe like a line or two. And there is thousands of models on Replicate. If you don't want to use Flux Schnell, go and change it to Flux Dev. You get a little bit of a better quality, a little bit more consistency, but of course, it's more expensive. So you want to figure out those things, test around. You want to make sure, I guess, you find a balance for yourself. Here's our little two tests. Not bad. Now, that's how you just change the models for this feature, right? Now we're going to take a look at Ross's code. So let's see what Ross has. And feel free to stop me, guys, and ask me any questions while we're getting Ross's code from Slack. Here it is. Any questions, guys? I don't see any requests.
It looks like everybody is all good on questions. Alisher, I'm super excited because I'm excited to start coming up with new features. That is the homework, guys. Start jotting down three ideas of features you'd like to see. Expect two of them to get denied, as Ross said, or shot down, and hope for the best of one, or at least one will make it. But all jokes aside, I'm super excited to start getting my hands dirty and start customizing and looking around. You've got me thinking now of which models I want to put in to my Canva, Alisher. I don't know. My head's going crazy. I could put a lot of different models that I personally like. Perplexity a lot. But I'll just have to go around and see which models are best. Because once you were going through the prices, I started realizing I was like, man, there's an old saying that if you count your pennies, that's how the rich people get rich, pretty much, something along those lines. But you gotta count your pennies, you gotta track them, and that way your company can be profitable. And I'm seeing that the workflow and the okay, well this LLM only is going to cost you 3 pennies, or 3/10 of a penny. I mean, come on, that's game changing right there.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
Chanel is insane in
oops,
terms of
sorry.
price.
I was thinking about that too, Cash Money, last night, actually. The fractionalized, cost structure. And I think an app that would keep track of that would be so vital, because I think a lot of folks last night and even in previous discussions have been absolutely gobsmacked at how expensive things can get, and how, especially when you're playing in these different tools, how it adds up so quickly. You know, when it's just you acquire a community. It's like Ross had explained with one of the services or products he was using, and he didn't realize he didn't turn it off, right? And so you have those kinds of moments where having a physical timer or a physical clock, it's just like on your cell phone, where it says you've spent this much time on this app, and it shuns you and shames you into, feeling guilty about how much time you've wasted, right? It should be the same thing. You should have, something on your screen saying, hey, by the way, this is how many minutes you have. And I think it's interesting too, because certain generations understand this, because once upon a time, our phone calls, you had 10 cents, you put it in the, phone, and that's it. And when that 10 cents ran out, you're done. You had to hang up. Your parents didn't know where you were, because, and if you were really smart, you would play the game of having a collect call to your parents, and they knew, okay, no one's on the other side. I'm not accepting the charges, but I will go pick you up at the mall, right? This is what we're doing now, folks. For you Gen Xers who might not understand and connect the dots, we're making collect calls right now and setting up these accounts and deciding whether or not it's worthy to pick up. So, if you're a Seinfeld person, whether these apps are sponge worthy is also another analogy I think people can take away. But I just wanted to put that out there, that I do think that that would be a very smart thing, because what Cash Money has said is really important. And if you don't keep track of all of those little tiny pennies, you as a solopreneur are going to, not understand where your money is going. That's one of the reasons too. I know that I'm on a tangent slightly, why tech in schools products are so important, is because if you have My AI Tutor or you have Pixio, you have an entire suite of tools under one umbrella. You are not paying subscription fees for every tool. You are paying a one fee for access to everything. And it's a very smart way to manage your resources and funds that are going out, right? So that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm sorry that I jumped in and kind of took over the conversation, Alisher, but it is something to think about. And I really hope that it ties into the thought process that we do have homework to think about. And along this veins, it sounds unsexy and not really fun to create something like that, but it would be a wise choice, because not all things that are very valuable are, glittery and sexy to have, right? You just want something that gets it done, got or did. So at any rate, sorry, Alisher.
Yeah, there's a lot of features you could implement too. And to the point of just, I guess, the pricing itself, if you try a file and you try to integrate file, and this is why I recommend integrating, is because number one, it has an upscaler, and you're with that Canva clone, you're in an image business. So having an upscaler at the end before you download everything, I mean, your clients will love you, because usually you have to pay like a few dollars per image to upscale. File will do it for a few cents, even less than a cent probably. And then on
That's
Fal,
crazy.
a new thing that they have is this thing called any LLM. So let's say you want to have everything in one place where you pay like one bill. Well, they have Open Router. So if I look for any LLM, this says powered by Open Router. So they're like an Open Router proxy. Some other things they have is image to image. So imagine you take a drawing, because this app, it has a drawing feature, right? So what if you draw something and then you click a button and turn that into a real image that looks good and doesn't look like stick figures? Because it's very hard to draw. Um, just like in Canva, Canva has a draw feature too, and it's very lackluster. So what if you can turn every drawing into a masterpiece or into an image that you want? If prompting with words doesn't work that well for you. Some other things you can find on FAL is some of these control net stuff. Maybe you want to integrate video. You have this segment anything model where you can mask certain objects in real time. So there's a lot of things you could check out on FAL. And if you were here in season 1 for FAL, when we were integrating FAL, if you guys remember, we actually everybody I think got like $10 in credits. I still have $7 left. So you will still have probably money left as well. You might still have your full $10 credit left. So there's your free image generation that you can play around with. And they have all the latest models too. Here's they have Schnell, they have the latest Flux, they have Auraflow, their own model. They have stable diffusion as well if you want to use that. They have upscale, remove background, pretty much everything that Replicate has, they have as well. And just not everything. I take that back because Replicate is very big and people can host their own models on Replicate. But this has a list of models curated pretty much for any use. Even vision models. Let's say you don't want to pay OpenAI for a vision model. They have vision models. They have Lava, and then they have another one powered by OpenRouter again. So it's pretty cool. I highly recommend you check them out. I'm not trying to show them. It's just something that I think we've used before, and some of us might have credits here as well if you've signed up in season 1. Okay, so now let's try to integrate Ross's code. Now, for me personally, now I don't know what's been changed, what's been added. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna I'm gonna close this because sometimes when you're editing files and you're removing files, things need to be closed. You can't have those files open. So I'm going to close my VS Code. I'm going to go to Ross's zip, and I'm going to take this SRC folder. This SRC folder is going to contain pretty much everything related to the app, the way it looks, the way it functions. Everything else is just kind of like the settings. So I'm going to take this SRC folder, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to my app. And if you don't know where your app is, go to GitHub Desktop. And then you can, let's see where it is. You can go to repository and you can click show in Explorer or Finder if you're in Mac. And that will take you to where your application is. As you guys can see here, I also have an SRC directory here. So all I'm going to do is just paste. And I'm going to replace all the files. And what that's going to do is it's going to replace, I guess, it's going to replace everything. So watch out. If you change your models, you might need to change them again. But it's also going to bring in a lot of the new stuff that Ross has implemented. There you go. Simple, easy. And now we can go to GitHub Desktop and we can see the changes he made. So he changed the sidebar. He added a new route for chatting. He changed this AI part. It looks like you're using a different models. It's okay. And he changed the logo. So that's another thing we're going to look at is changing the logo. Forgot we did that. Small but important piece when it comes to white labeling and branding. Okay, so we have these changes made. This works with OpenRouter, but we need our API keys. So let's add those in before we push. Now, I think if we go to Slack, the API keys are provided by Ross. All you need to do is fill in your OpenRouter key. So I'm just going to copy these. Really, you only need 3. You don't need this next public app URL. I think you already have that. So let's go and add these in. Remember, our environment variables, we're going to add in Vercel. So I'm going to go to settings. If you want to test it locally, you could add them to your env as well, but we'll go straight to Vercel. It takes so quickly to rebuild this app. Now, this right here, OpenRouter model, this is where you select what LLM model you want to chat with. So if I go to OpenRouter, you guys are going to notice there's a lot of models in OpenRouter, and they have free models. So let's see if I can. Here we go. Pricing low to high. Oops. And here you have some free models. So there's some labeled free. We are using, I think, 1 billion model. If you want to use a bigger model, here's MetaLlama 3.1, 70 billion. So all you have to do is just copy this string right here. There's a copy button next to it. And change that in your variables, right? So instead of using 3.21 billion, I'm going to use 3.170 billion. Just make sure it has free at the end, because again, all of these things cost money. And what's cool about OpenRouter is they provide these new models, pretty much state-of-the-art models for free, some of them. Of course, things like GPT-4o, those are going to be paid because they're essentially just a proxy for OpenAI. You know, they pay OpenAI whenever you pay them. But some of these other ones, completely free. Now let's sign in and let's get that OpenRouter key. That's the main thing we need from here. So even though these models are free, you still need a key. I'm going to go to keys. I'm going to create a new one. Call this ITT Thursday. You just want to copy this key and paste it where it says OpenRouter API key and it says your key. And that's it. You can just click save. Okay, so now we have the keys, and we really just need to push the code. Before we push that code, let's make one more change that we need to make. If you guys remember, we have to change our logo, right? So I'm going to close everything, and I'm going to look for logo in the search. Let's see if it takes me anywhere. Okay, and there you go. There's a few places, right? So we have this logo.tsx that has a logo, and we have logo.svg. So first we need to make a logo that's SVG, that's a vector graphic. And then we need to change it here. So I think for me, this is gonna probably use the old logo, but as you can see, there's some text here as well. Right, so if we take a look at this logo.tsx file, this is your setup for the logo. Brings in an image called logo.svg. You can try using a PNG as well, as long as you rename this. And here's the actual name that you see in the corner. Right, so in the corner, typically, you're going to see some sort of a name. So you just want to make sure that you change it. So this is called Canvas Craft. Well, I'm going to rename this, of course. It's going to be my canvas. Now, logo.svg, let's see if I can generate a quick logo. Let's go to my Pixio. And I know last night you guys used Creative, but I'm actually going to use Pixcraft. No particular reason. Just you know, one of the first pages that pops up. Let's see. A vector graphic logo for an image editing software. And let's do flat colors, gradients, and we'll do white background. And we'll let this run. And then we'll remove the background as well. Now there's a few places, as you can see, where logo.svg is mentioned. So what you can do is you can replace logo.svg. I think it's inside of public. Yep. There's actually a few things here you should replace. I don't know why this is here. Travel.png. Strange. But yeah, things like bg.jpg, as you can see, this corresponds directly to the background of the front page. So if you don't like it, all you have to do is bring in a JPEG image and call it bg.jpg, and then delete this one, and that will completely replace it. That's the easiest way if you don't know where this image is located. Right, it's just replacing the image itself. That will replace it everywhere for you. And again, if you were to replace just logo SVG with something that's an SVG of your logo and just calling it logo SVG, will also replace it in every single place where it's used. Instead of going to every single one of these places and changing logo.svg to my logo, I can just replace the file itself. That's like a little hack that pretty much works in any sort of web development, whether you're doing HTML, PHP, Next.js. Let's see. Oh, these aren't that bad, actually. I'll take this one. I like it. Simple. Let's do download. And I'm actually going to use, let's see. I'll use Canva. I like Canva. Let's do canva.com. And I'm going to remove the background, even though you can remove the background in Pixio as well. But I want to get an SVG. So I'm going to do logo. Bring my picture in. And also, you can do other things in Canva too. Let's say you want to add some text here. A lot of text options in Canva. Okay, this looks like it has no background. Let's go to share, download, and I'm gonna make sure I download an SVG. Now, this is not a true SVG, as somebody pointed out a few weeks ago to me, but it'll get the job done, for us at least. So I'm gonna call this logo. Hopefully that's not taken. Nope, perfect. And now all I have to do is just replace this logo.svg with my file. Right, so I'm gonna go in, delete this one. Bye-bye. And I'm gonna go to my downloads, and I'm just gonna bring in my logo SVG. You just need to drag it inside of the public folder. And that's it. Now, if I don't like this background, let's also replace this background. Why not? While we're here, let's see if I have anything. Or let's just generate one. So this will be, I think, about a 16 by 9. Let's do abstract piece of art, random shapes. Let's do rustic colors. And I'm just going to select my aspect ratio, and I'll make it 16 by 9. Replacing images and graphics is pretty easy. I would say the harder part is going in and renaming them, right? So if, let's say, you have your logo used in 20, 40 different places, it's going to be very time consuming. So replacing the file itself, much easier. And then as soon as I put this background in, we're going to redeploy, and we're going to see what we've created. Because I haven't seen what changes Ross made with Open Router yet, so it'll be interesting to see what him and Sharon and Kirk cooked up. There you go. Okay, these aren't that bad. These aren't that bad. Actually, very similar to what we already have. I will go with this one. I like this one. Okay, now this is a PNG, unfortunately, so we'll need to fully rename it. So this is bg.jpg. So I'm gonna bring it in. I'm gonna delete my background.jpg. And I'm going to rename this to bg.jpg. The whole thing. bg.jpg. Simple. And I think now we're ready to push this up. All of our changes are in. Here you go. It tells us exactly what we changed. I'm going to say, you always want to put something useful here. So I'm going to say updated. So updates, and then let's do added open router. Always good to have a trail. Added open router, changed logo, changed background picture on login. And now let's see if all these changes actually translated. So I'm going to push origin. And as soon as I push origin, it's going to trigger that redeployment. And that redeployment is going to have all of our changes plus all of our environment variable changes. So we're only redeploying once. Ideally, your workflow should be you work locally, you test locally, and then once you test all the changes locally, then you push. But since our build is so quick, it takes about a minute or so. I mean, we can push as many times as we want. It's just sometimes if our cell might have a queue for redeployment and rebuilding. Okay, any questions, guys, about changing your logo, adding this open router feature, Google sign-in, GitHub sign-in, pretty much anything we went over today? Oh, error? No. Let's see what the issue is. I know what the issue is. So whenever you're writing code and you have text in the code, you can't have things like spaces or quotes or apostrophes. So you have to use like these short codes that they give you for quotes and apostrophes. Easy fix. But I'm just gonna call this something else because I don't like to use those codes. Let's name this Thursday Campus. So we know that this is the one we're working on Thursdays, and then the one that's called Canvas Craft is the one you guys are working on Wednesdays. And if it's a very small change, GitHub is not even going to ask you to put a description in. Cool. And what's cool is that, whenever you get an error, make sure you read it because you'll immediately understand the problems that it's having. For example, right here it tells you that the error happens inside of logo.tsx. That's number one indicator. It tells you where the error happens, so you can go to that exact file. And then this first number, 20, that's actually the line number. So it's also telling you where it happens in terms of the line number. So if we go to line number 20, you'll find, for me, I found the apostrophe there. See, it says error apostrophe cannot be escaped. Just doesn't understand apostrophe. It has its own little short code for it. That's more like it. Almost done building. Only one error, guys. I think that's good. You just gotta wait a second until current moves to up here. There you go. And just like that, immediately we see the changes that we made, right? So number one, it's called Thursday Canvas. It has my logo in the corner. And when I sign out, it has our background as well. Right, so a few easy changes that you can make before next week. And remember, guys, next week, think about the features you want to integrate. Think of a few. There might be some that are possible, might be some that are not so possible. So you wanna have a few ideas, and also try to do some research. If you want to integrate a feature, go to Google, and say things like, let's say you want to integrate, what was it? TL draw, where you draw and it uses stable diffusion or image to image, and it turns into a real picture, a realistic picture. Um, Look into what different APIs you're able to use for that. There's a lot of image editing APIs that you can check out as well. But yeah, guys, these are all the changes we made. So just to recap, we did Google sign in, we did GitHub sign in, we changed the models that we use for remove background and generate image. So that's all handled in Replicate. And we changed our logo, and we changed this background picture that you see here. And let's actually log in. I'll use the GitHub login. And let's check out this AI section now. So look at that. Now there's an AI chat button. And let's try to ask it something. Let's do give me an idea for an easy poster design. And look at that. You have chatting right here inside of the AI widget. If you don't like it here, go to AI Tutor. Ask it to put AI chat somewhere over here in the corner, like you typically see on a lot of websites. This is your playground for you to play around with. Okay, guys. Any questions before we end? If you guys don't have any questions, remember you can DM me. You can hit people up on Slack. You can just drop it in the Slack channel. And don't forget to share your link.
Yep.
Looking forward to seeing everybody's links.
I'm not seeing any other questions, Alisher. You did such a fantastic job. I love watching these after the fact. Wednesday night you go through it, but then having a different perspective also helps solidify the information for folks that are listening in. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time and your energy, because I know how much goes into this stuff. It's incredible how much you do behind the scenes, all three of you, Nick, Alisher, Ross, and tech in schools in general, in preparation, in disseminating this kind of wisdom to us. Because in many ways, this class, this specific season, is all of us kind of doing as we, and in real time, right? And seeing and mimicking the process that you've all kind of pioneered. When you go forth and you're doing it first and then you teach somebody else how you did it, is always a fantastic process, because it also gives us a glimpse into your mind and your why. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I also wanted to say thank you to Luke, and Cash Money Kev, Matea, and Josh Hellman for being the other half. Sometimes you have to have an open space. I mean, I can't imagine that tech in schools, with the kind of commitments that they have, just having a partner that's willing to open up a space and say, we have a symbiotic relationship. We have a community of entrepreneurs that really need to have this skill set, and for them to have that forward thinking to partner, and for tech in schools to be so accommodating in creating this kind of experiment is really, really amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And if you're wanting to have the final words, Alisher, and then hand it off to Cash Money Kev, we can tie it off into a little bow. I'm really proud of you. And I'm grateful for your friendship too, because you are just a very gifted and smart person. And your compassion and heart for people and wanting for their success is rare. And it just so happens that all seven of these gentlemen that work on this project, they all have that heart for people. And it's fun to celebrate wins with other folks. So go ahead, Alisher, close us out. And then Cash Money Kev is going to do the final run around the space and turn out all the lights, make sure everything's unplugged, that we don't burn the house down until the next segment. So go ahead, Alisher.
Okay, guys. I guess I'll close out with a few things. So number one, remember your homework. Right, you want to come up with a few features, get a few options, and we'll go over it next week. As soon as we all get in, we'll start talking about the features. Maybe you like some of the things that other people present. We only encourage this crossing streams of ideas, so to say. And also, start thinking about where you want this platform to end up at the end of week 6, potentially week 7. Because what you want to do is maybe you want to change the design, maybe you want to change some of these icons to stand out, right? Because at the end of the day, what I guess we're going to look at, because of course we love looking at your projects, but we also want to see some diversity, right? We want to see some design changes in terms of what this looks like. Already you're making design changes by changing your logo, changing the name, changing the background image. But in order to kind of um, get ahead of the ending, because we're in the second half already. Start looking into how to make some of these design changes, because those are the easy changes you can make yourself using AI. And then if you're running into some issues integrating features, that's where you want to bring it up to the classroom and open it up to discussion. Because at the end of the day, changing a color is, it's like 3 or 4 pieces of code, and you might be able to change the whole theme of this app. Maybe you want to add a dark mode where, if your device is in dark mode, then this app is in dark mode. Maybe you want to take a look at Canva and what actual Canva does in terms of design and what they look like. Maybe you want to create like a front landing page instead of having a login. Those are all the things you can do on your own, because they're not as complicated as you think. You can just go to AI Tutor, turn on artifacts, and say, give me a front page, give me a landing page with all these options. And it'll do it for you, and you can just copy and paste it. Um, Meanwhile, some of these other changes, like replicate, file, we're going to try to do those within the class setting on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And of course, thank you guys for open sourcing some of these changes. I'm seeing Sharon open sourcing this open router integration, Cyril open sourcing some of the bug fixes. If you guys have anything to share, feel free to share your code. I know the rest of the class definitely will appreciate it.
Awesome, Alisher. Awesome. I love it, man. Great job as always. I'll just mimic what Sarah said. You guys and everything you guys do is awesome. The mission here is priceless. And that's why we show up every week and why you guys show up every week. And also shout out to Sarah, because even though she's always giving flowers out to everybody, she's also the co-host, one of the co-hosts with the most, always showing up to support us and the TSI team, and Luke, me, and Maddie, and Josh. Also, I gotta say, Alisher, that background with the rock is badass. I'm gonna say that right now. Excuse my language, but that is the coolest background I've seen in a long time. I totally saw it during the stream earlier. And I just saw it again. You remind me. I love that, man. And your teaching as well. To do this in an hour and a half, to distill it down, and to get every aspect and every little wrinkle ironed out for everybody, especially for the guys that are asleep on Wednesday nights, that go back on this in the recordings. It's priceless for them. So thank you. With that, guys, I'll see you guys in ITT number 72. Be sure to check out innovatorsthinktank.com. We're going to have some awesome changes coming there soon. Thanks to Luke. He's the man. And also thanks to Dave Muir for his advice, and he's also given us some marketing tips over there. And yeah, we'll see you guys. Oh! Don't forget to go check out Humans Make Cool Things, and